Bit of breaking news to bring to you right now. We've gotten word that Republican leader Mitch McConnell has taken a fall. It happened during the Senate Republican lunch today. Two medical responders were seen briefly entering the office.
The recent Senate hearing, featuring Senator Marsha Blackburn's clash with policy expert Aaron Reichland-Melnick, was a masterclass in political theater and humiliation.
Mr. Reichland-Melnick, I'd like to come to you. I want to talk about some of your tweets. You've been active on X.
Trying to weaponize misinformation about 320,000 migrant children, Blackburn's claims fell apart under the weight of facts. Reichland-Melnick calmly outed bureaucratic failures as the true problem, not missing children. Undeterred by the truth, Blackburn interrupted, deflected, and ultimately retreated when her arguments crumbled. This is not the show of one senator's missteps, but a window to deeper systemic issues in American politics. It is now time to demand accountability, challenge misinformation, and strive for leaders who actually put people first over posturing. The story begins with a recent Senate hearing where Senator Marsha Blackburn tried to pin Aaron Reichland-Melnick, a policy expert, on some supposed 320,000 missing migrant children. Holding up tweets as if they were smoking guns, Blackburn thought she had her moment. But what unfolded next was nothing short of humiliating. Of course, Blackburn's arguments were quickly debunked. Aaron Reichland-Melnick patiently explained that the children were not lost, but rather casualties of bureaucratic error. ICE had simply failed to file proper paperwork, meaning that children's cases remained unprocessed, not lost. And did she listen? Absolutely not. She interrupted and twisted words to stubbornly deny the facts. Her strategy seemed less about finding truth and more about theatrics designed to mislead. When Blackburn realized she was getting licked, she did what all the best bullies do: cut her losses and run. With a curt "my time has expired," she fled the scene, leaving in her wake a trail of questions unanswered and embarrassment political. It wasn't just a personal failure. The moment epitomized a deplorable manner of doing politics in which bluster substitutes for heft. This isn't the first time these actions by Marsha Blackburn have drawn criticism. Let's look a little further into her past. In 1992, she couldn't win a congressional seat. Rather than reflect on that, she scratched her way into the Tennessee State Senate, building a career on angry rhetoric and bad faith arguments. Over the years, Blackburn has consistently aligned herself with corporate interests and partisan dogma, often at the expense of ordinary people. Take her infamous fentanyl bill, literally drafted with big pharma lobbyists. The bill trussed up the DEA and did more harm in fighting opioid abuse. The result: 50% more overdose deaths across Tennessee. Mark one grim bottom line that connotes the human cost of such policies. And yet, Blackburn has the audacity to blame others for the opioid crisis that continues to plague our country, refusing to accept any culpability for her actions to enable the crisis in the first place. Blackburn talks a big game about standing up for women and families, but her voting record tells a very different story. She voted against the Lilly Ledbetter Fair Pay Act, a bill that fought for equal pay for equal work. She opposed the Paycheck Fairness Act to help eliminate pay disparities between men and women. She even voted against the Violence Against Women Act, which has been a landmark in protections and resources for survivors of domestic violence. Rather than standing in support of equality and protection, she found herself time and again on the wrong side of progress. Equally egregious is her stance on gun control. After the Thousand Oaks shooting, which claimed 12 lives, her first order of business wasn't tackling gun violence, but protecting the NRA, which bankrolled her campaign to the tune of $1.25 million. In Blackburn's world, fealty to donors apparently trumps the safety of her constituents. And on climate change? Blackburn denies the crisis altogether, claiming we're in a cooling period. Meanwhile, the ice caps are melting, wildfires are raging, and the world is grappling with increasingly severe climate disasters. Blackburn's hypocrisy even forced pop icon Taylor Swift into politics. In 2018, Swift, known for avoiding political commentary, publicly denounced Blackburn's voting record, calling it appalling and terrifying. Swift's statement galvanized an entire generation of voters. Blackburn's response: she dismissed Swift with condescension, underestimating the power of an engaged and informed youth. But the damage to Blackburn's image was done. The youth were awake, and her reputation among young voters took a significant hit. Marsha Blackburn's story is not about one senator's downfall. It reflects deep-seated issues in American politics. The prioritization of corporate interests, the dismissal of human rights, and the dangerous game of misinformation. Blackburn's actions have real consequences on migrant children, on families, and on the nation. For too long, figures like Blackburn have thrived off division and deceit. But as this recent hearing shows, the tide is turning. The American people will no longer stand idly by while such behavior is allowed to slide. Let me take just a moment to reflect upon the human cost of this political theatre. Behind every headline is a gut-wrenching story. Families torn apart at the border, children in limbo, and a system failing the most vulnerable. Blackburn's rhetoric not only misleads, but prolongs the suffering of real people. Aaron Reichland-Melnick's testimony was supposed to be a plea for truth and accountability, but Blackburn took pains to turn it into a spectacle. Rather than working towards solutions, she chose to score political points at the expense of those who cannot defend themselves. The good news: the public is watching. Social media exploded in the wake of the hearing, with thousands calling out Blackburn's behavior. Hashtags like #MarshaExposed and #TimeIsUp trended for days. The people want better from their leaders, and they are not relenting. It is a reminder that democracy thrives when citizens stay informed and hold their representatives accountable. Blackburn's time may not be up yet, but her reputation is certainly on borrowed time. As we move beyond this incident, it is important to understand how Blackburn's actions tie into the larger fabric of political dysfunction. From turning critical debates into personal attacks, to prioritizing corporate sponsors over constituents, this is symptomatic of a broader issue in governance. How many other leaders are failing us in similar ways? Hidden behind layers of spin and obfuscation, Blackburn's behavior is not an isolated incident. It's a part of political culture that rewards sensationalism over substance. But the backlash she's facing now is a sign of hope, a reminder that accountability is possible when we refuse to turn a blind eye. The ripples from this moment are undeniable. Already, there are discussions on reforming immigration policy, reducing corporate influence, and bringing more transparency into government. These are the seeds of change, sown by citizens tired of the status quo. But at the core of this story lies the power of collective action. Be it voting, advocating, or simply just being more informed, each act contributes to that higher achievement. A government of the people, for the people. Blackburn's missteps are glaring, but they're also a catalyst for reflection, and ultimately, improvement. History repeats that change never comes in a single day. It requires watchfulness, steadfastness, and a solid belief in the wheel of progress. While the actions of Blackburn were the cautionary tale, they also shone a beam of light on resilient struggle towards a better future. The strength of democracy lies in its growth, in admitting mistakes, and working towards perfection to make it a more perfect, just system. It is at such moments of real reckonings that a nation's character usually comes to the fore. Yet, Marsha Blackburn's story can simultaneously be one of warning and one that beckons a call to action. Let history remember this day, a new beginning. Let the next crop of leaders take cognizance that ambition for power and an interest in corporate deals does indeed have its costs to do with the very well-being of the people they were supposed to serve. Marsha Blackburn's time may not be officially up, but her credibility certainly is. To anyone watching, let this be a reminder. Accountability starts with us. Stay informed, stay engaged, and together let's demand better leadership. This isn't a minor political bleep on a screen. It's a wake-up call. Until the next chapter in this developing story of change and resilience.